Hello, snowboarders of the internet. I'm your host, Avran LeFeber, and in this video, we're going to go through all the easy entry bindings on the market from Step-On to Supermatic. We're going to go over the pros, the cons, how much they weigh, and what you can expect from every single one of these. So, if you don't like strong opinions, maybe you should watch a different video. But if you like strong opinions and you're not afraid of what we have to say, keep watching. We will have affiliate links down in the description below for every product mentioned in this video. So if you want to buy online, we got you covered. If you want to go down to your local shop, hopefully this video informs you. So if you do go there, slap them a high five and say we sent you. When it comes to flow bindings, one of the biggest pros is they've been in the market the longest. They've been doing this since the mid-90s, which means from where they were to where they are, they've put a lot of R&D. They've actually sold the company to Nidecker, and the flow line is now in the Nidecker line. That gave them more money for research and development and for expanding the products. If you look at where they were and what those were to where they are now, they're a lot better. Now, is it a product for everyone? I'll leave that up to you to decide. But things that are a pro about this: the lack of the heel cup, so the high back and the heel cup are all one, you're reducing space back there. I do believe that the people that are into the whole carving craze understand how this does sit higher, this works. I get where they're coming from with that, and it's not as bulky. This is reducing down on that. The other thing is the power triangle in this. So down the high back, across the chassis, and then back up through the straps and the cable. That's the power triangle. That changes the power dynamic in these. It changes the response. Is it for everyone? Once again, I leave that up to you, but having ridden these, I can tell you that it works. You do get a different toe to heel response as well as lateral play. These are a slightly more responsive binding, and with the way that they've gone in even just the last 5 years, you've got the ability to go through the front of the binding if you absolutely have to. You can release the straps and just step in, or you can go through the back door. You slide your foot in, flip it up, and lock it in there. Now, yes, there is SP or Fast Tech that does something similar, and that's got its own take on it. Unfortunately, didn't have a pair of those for this video. Other things that are good about this binding is the fact that you can adjust those straps. You can tweak the forward lean. You can tweak a little bit of movement on the heel cup, stuff like that. You have the ability to play around with this, so you do get those adjustments, which is nice. And they've come a long way in their straps. It's solid for what it is. There are cons to this. Some people don't like going through the back door. Nothing wrong with that. The other thing is, when you are in the lift line, you either got your high back all the way open, so you're hitting it when you skate, or when you fold it forward, it still sits a little bit higher. A low swinging chair can hit it. They also do have a little bit more weight to them as well. The dead spot underfoot is a little bit bigger. You don't get as much board feel out of them. Arguably is a pro and a con at the same time, depending on who you ask. I do think that there are other issues with that cable. The fact that it takes more to dial these in, and a lot of people do not spend the time to dial it in, can be a real problem for them and their enjoyment of snowboarding. I've ridden flows on and off for 20 years doing reviews and stuff. I think they've come a long way. I think they work. I don't think they're for everyone, but I do think that there are people that just want to slide their foot in the back, flip it up, and go. And if you've ridden these, and I mean actually ridden them, not gone out because you work at a shop or you were just curious about it and made 2 laps, but you spend a whole day, they're dialed, and you understand the difference in the power dynamic underfoot and how that relates to how it transfers from edge to edge. Is it for everyone? No, I don't believe it's for everyone, but I think there are people that do understand this and it does work. And I like the fact that they did think outside the box back in the mid-90s to create this. Let's talk about Step-On. Is it for everyone? I don't believe that, but I understand who this is for. I understand the market they're going for, and Burton did sink a couple $1 million into R&D, and now with licensing it out, or as I've been told, they're just selling the parts and letting the brands figure it out. You've got Nitro, Flux, and Union. The Union one, in my opinion, is the one that they have really spent some R&D. You got Mark Fawcett working with them to help dial this in because he's a big proponent of step-on. And with his background in racing and carving and stuff, it makes sense. This has a tighter fit than the Burton ones. It's got more performance base to it. It's going to be just a better product when you're trying to actually get that integration of boot to binding so that you're locked in and you can feel it in there. The other thing is, what's funny to me is the heel cup. You can remove it on the Union one. You can't adjust it, but you can remove it. So if anything happens, you could replace that in there. So there is a little bit of a modularity to it. But what you're getting with this is just a more performance base compared to the Burton ones. I don't really know how the Flux and Nitro ones are, but I know the Burton ones, they're comfort first. That's not a bad thing. And with Union getting into this and the boot market, it's a matter of time before they build a Union step-on boot, which means more boots in the market for this binding. So that ecosystem is growing, which is another net positive. Well, there's no straps. That's kind of a negative in my opinion. But one of the things, and this is kind of a universal thing that I've realized with step-ons, because of those cleats in the front, your boot flex is different. I'm seeing more and more boots breaking down or getting so loose at the cleat from the flex point that they don't engage and people are actually popping up on it. This is more prevalent on the Burton ones. I haven't seen this from the Union ones, but these are still relatively new to the market. The other thing is where that attaches in the heel. That heel, it changes the dynamic in how you engage your binding. So I've got Achilles tendonitis. I can feel this right on my Achilles. It moves the flex point a little bit higher in your instep when you're doing that forward flexion in there. That changes it. And some people aren't going to like that. I don't, right? That's a personal opinion. Some people actually like that. They like that level of response. The other thing is, going back to the boot point that I made in the pros for this, you're limited on what boots you can get. So you've got DC, Flux, Nitro, and Burton. I think that's it right now. Maybe there's something else out there that I'm skipping, but you're now limited. And as I always say, the best boot is the one that fits your foot and fits your needs, right? Well, if none of those fit your foot or fit your needs, you're SOL. The other thing that I think's a con is I'm starting to see knockoff versions of this. Found it on Alibaba, which just means it's a matter of time before people are slapping their name saying it's the step-on one. And one of the things that I noticed with it was people were sticking their finger in the back to release this. With straps, like you break a heel strap, you can still make it down with a toe strap. You can jerry rig it. You break a cleat on this, you're SOL. Now, I will say these are the lightest bindings out of the 5 that we have here. Like, they're superiorly light, like noticeably light in there. And so if you're one of those weight weenies, that is a positive for it. Or it could be a negative if you want something with a little more girth. I leave that up to you. With the Union step-on, I think this is for someone that's a higher end rider that wants step-on. Maybe they've got knee injuries, back injuries. They want to get in and they want that performance. You're going to get that with this. With the Burton ones, I don't really care what people say, and they're going to say I'm a hater. I don't think they perform the same. I don't. I think that they lack that response, and they're just getting by on their name. It's a very Burton thing that they do with it. But overall, step-on, in my opinion, you're still going to get some performance if you go with the Union. It's a comfort binding. It will always be a comfort binding. It's a casual rider binding. You're not pushing it to the limit. You don't need that response in there. It's one of those things that I'm sure there's someone that's going to leave me a comment, oh, I get a ton of response and it's super performative. And I'm like, I'm sure it is for the 15 days a year you ride, buddy. I'm sure. But for someone like me that rides 100 plus, I know that I would be killing boots every 50 days. Like the cleat would just blow out on it. And that's, once again, a downside with these. The big thing with the Supermatic is that it exists because flow bindings exist. Flow crawled so that this could walk. And that's what it is. It is a different binding. And some of the pros that I feel about it are the fact that you can adjust the straps. You still have access to tighten them down like a regular binding. And it's a comfort binding. That's really what it is. It's not a performance-based binding. I know there's the carbon Supermatic. So you've got the Supermatic, the carbon Supermatic, and the Supermatic LT now. It's a comfort binding. It's never going to be a performance binding, and that's fine. There are people that they can't bend over as well. They want to be able to slide their foot in, lock. The only time they want to bend down is when they hit that release tab to open that high back and they step out. They did spend a lot of time designing this. They put a lot of R&D into it, and you can see that. There was a binding called Struth at one point, and I remember when that came out, and I remember saying to the guy, I was like, I see where you're going, but it looks so rough. They kind of took that and then took it to the next level. This is a heavy-ass binding. Like, that's one of the big detriments to it. The other thing is, it's got a huge dead spot underfoot. You're not going to get as much board feel with it. It is heavy. It does have a lot of moving parts, so down the road, that can be an issue with it. The other thing is, because of the way that this sits, even when you fold that high back down, this sits so high. Low swinging chair, it's going to crack it. Boom, you've just obliterated this binding. You don't have as much adjustability as other bindings out there. Yeah, you can lengthen and shorten the straps. You can change the forward lean on the high back, and you can move the foot ramp forward and backwards. But that's it. It's also more rigid in that heel area because you've got so much extra material. You've got extra parts in there. I do think once you learn how to get in, which is you want to go toe to heel instead of clod stomping into it, it works, but it's not for everyone. I think that there are limitations with this. I do think, though, this builds on where Flow was to take it to another level. One of the other big things, look at how big that heel cup is. When you're on a heel side carve, you've got more material out there. Flow has less, which is a pro for Flow. It's a negative for Supermatic. The big thing with the Supermatic, like I said, I view this as a comfort binding. I view it for people that have back issues, knee issues. They need something to get in. They're not bending down as much. They just want to go. It's for casual riders. It's for someone that's not going to care about how big that dead spot is. It's not as performance-based as other bindings out there. Yeah, you can get the Supermatic Carbon, which is going to have more response. It's going to be stiffer. But by and large, like, there's issues. The other thing is this little hinge piece back here, that can feel weird underfoot. Some people have issues with it, some people don't. Once again, it's a binding that is for some people, and I see where they're going with it. And the fact that Flow crawled so this could walk does make total sense to me because it's a logical progression for an aging demographic. But they've got to do something to reduce the weight. They've got to reduce that dead spot. And I think if you could minimize how many moving parts it has while maximizing its potential, it would be very solid. Okay, so we're about halfway through this video. Why don't you go down, give it a thumbs up, because, you know, you want to feed the algorithm. And if you haven't already, subscribe, click the bell, get those notifications. That way you're not missing any of the programming we've got coming out for you. This is the newest one on the market, the FASE series, and you've got Jones, 32, Bataleon, and Rome. We've got Rome here because that's what I had readily available. This is the most customizable one of these easy entry bindings on the market. You got 64 points of articulation with the heel strap on the Katana. That goes down when you go to the Bataleon, and it gets even less when you go to the 32 or the Jones version of it. This is the most performance-based version of an easy entry binding, in my opinion. You step in, you hit the paddle, that high back locks up, and then you got the speed strap here, and you do it, and you're done. That's what it is. I like the fact that you got customization, the fact that this isn't as heavy as, say, a Supermatic, but it's also not as light as a step-on. It feels like a real binding. The fact that you can swap out parts, so if you wanted a Bataleon toe strap on a Rome or vice versa, you could do that. Now the big thing is that the way this binding's built, it's modular, so repairing it is a little bit easier. Like if something goes wrong with the paddle, you can replace the paddle. If the little spring inside it goes wrong, you can replace that. Something like that happens. The other thing that's nice about this is you can actually fully fold down that high back, and this isn't as bulky as, say, a Supermatic or a Flow when that's down. Obviously, a step-on is going to fold down even more. And then with Clew, you don't even have a high back because you're walking around like a little cowboy with your little stirrup on. Giddy up, partner.
I feel like a little cowboy.
What's cool about this is if you're in a situation where you don't want to step in, you can still go through the front of this. They spent the time. So Flow crawled so Supermatic could walk so that FASE could run. And this is the most performance-based one out there. This rides like a real binding. I've ridden the Bataleon. I've ridden the Rome one. When you're in it, it feels like a binding. Now, I've had people go, well, what problem is this one actually solving? It doesn't seem like it would do it. Here's the thing. If I still lived back in New York, 750 vertical, in a 4-hour period, I could probably crank out 30, 40 laps if I was going really fast, because the chairlift ride was like 2 minutes on some of those runs because they were high-speed quads on 750 vertical. Or let's say you hit a cat track, you got to pop your back foot out to skate, you release that heel ratchet, step out, skate, step back in, boom, clack it down, you're good. You don't have to worry about it. It's quick and it's easy in that. And the fact that it rides like a regular binding, the weight of this, in my opinion, riding Rome Black Label, it's like there's a little difference, but the Black Label was designed to be ultra lightweight, but if you're riding like a regular Rome Katana, you're splitting hairs there with the weight of it. There are some issues with this. I think the toe strap on the Rome ones doesn't quite sit right, so you kind of end up fiddling around with it to get it right. The Bataleon one is a little bit better. You can always swap that out. It's the first year of this to the public, and that's just one of the issues that's going to happen. The other thing is, I think people are going to have some issues with the heel strap, getting it lined up to where they want, or it's going to pop open on them. Then with the paddle and the high back, there are some issues with this as well. You basically have to retrain your brain that you go toe heel when you step into it from the rear. And people see this like with the high back detached from the pedal. They're like, I broke it. You didn't break it. It's in there. It's meant to flip down. I do think the forward lean piece on these is a little weaker. People are going to break that. And I'm not sure about the longevity of the paddle and the spring in there. I'd like to see what would happen after that's had about 10,000 ins and outs on it, like really stress that spring. I think this is for someone that wants more performance, but they understand that they ride an area that's flatter. They've got to skate. They're going to be in and out of the binding. Maybe you're an instructor. You're in, you're out with the kids. You're riding a smaller resort where, the laps are quick, you're in, you're out. That way you're not doing the bullshit that I've seen where people have like a Union Atlas on the front and a Clew binding on the rear. No, like you don't need to do that. By and large, I feel like this is the binding that rides the closest to a traditional strap when you're in it. You really don't notice the difference except when you're getting in or out. It's not for everyone, but I see who it's for. Like if you're coming back from a knee or back injury, this might be the way to do it because you're slowly building up to using those muscles. Yeah, you're going to have to bend down and do the strap at first, and you're still going to have to release the heel strap to get out of it. So you're still bending down the same, but these are super fast. TC has probably 60 to 70 days on them, and Sully from Rome has like 140. These work. I like what they're doing with it. I think we're just seeing the start of this. And to quote TC, he views it like BOA. This is like the first generation that came out. People were apprehensive. Then Gen 2, Gen 3, and now you look at where BOA is and how vast and broad it is. It makes sense. I think we're in the same category of that with this. You're going to see more of this getting licensed out. Like this year, we're seeing Supermatic licensed out to Solomon and Bent Metal. I feel like we'll see FASE licensed out as well in the future. Well, one of the pros about the Clew bindings is it tells people you're dumb. I swear to God. This was invented by a bunch of mentally deficient people that never really played with Legos or built anything. It was designed by a committee for people trying to solve a problem that doesn't exist. I know I'm supposed to be talking pros. There really are none with this. I hate this fucking thing. It's a piece of shit. When you compare this to a real binding and you look at it, you can see it's cheap. It's a piece of crap. It has a lot of cheap parts in it that don't work. The adjustability is ass on it. The fact that you've got a giant ass pocket of air so nothing dampens in there with that ridge under your foot. Everyone that has these that actually can ride at a moderate level seems to complain about back pain. It's the binding. The other thing is it restricts heel mobility and lateral play. So you don't get the same drive out of it. The response is different. Plus, the amount of people I see wearing these into the bathroom, cool, dude. You're stepping on piss-soaked floors with your bindings, you little cowboy. Awesome. And I love how people are like, well, you're not supposed to do that. You know, it's just there to make it easier to skate. And I understand that there is a new version of this and it's supposed to be more athletic, whatever the fuck that means. It doesn't matter. This is a shitty product, and in the history of snowboarding, it will be forgotten. I can tell you that already. Like, everyone's like, oh, but they always sell out. But we don't know the numbers of what they actually manufacture. They could manufacture 500 a year and sell out. They could manufacture 100. It's trickle-down rental technology. The people that designed this are not snowboarders. Look at how they had to market this. They had to go and get crappy-ass influencers to shill to people that didn't know any better. No one in snowboarding promotes this. No one cares about it. It's crap. The price is too high for what you get. It's a crappy build. And the fact that now we're starting to see these blow apart and Clew is trying to hide that is absolutely hilarious to me.
And that's fucking off. And I'm in the middle of the fucking mountain.
I said it was going to happen. No one believed me. They say they had 7 years of designing this. And I was like, I feel like they spent 7 minutes and did this. I know this is another rant of me shitting on Clew, and I don't really care for you Clew fanboys. You smooth-brained simpletons do not get how bad this is. The constant argument I get is, it's the best binding I've used. And when I go, how many bindings have you used? 2. So you used a rental binding in this, and this has trickle-down rental technology. And I love the people that are like, well, watch this video of me riding, and it's like stiff legs, stony baloney, shitted turns. You look like ass with it. It's a bad product. This is why I don't endorse it. This is why I crap on this. Everything else mentioned in this video is far superior. So here's the thing. We've got multiple options, right? With all of these bindings. They all have their pros. They all have their cons. You got to find what works for you. The big thing that I ask is keep an open mind on all this and understand that my opinions of this comes from 20 plus years of doing snowboard reviews, working in shops, and understanding it. For all the people that think I'm a Luddite and that I hate technology, I don't. I've ridden a lot of bindings over the years. What I hate is inferior products. What I hate is stuff that could be made better. And I like what Union is doing with Step-On. They seem to be taking that to the next level. So Burton created it and did this and is selling the parts, licensing it out, whatever. You're going to see other brands be able to build on that. I like what FASE is doing because you can see the logical progression from Flow to Supermatic to FASE in there and the way that they perform. Like I said, almost all of these have pros and cons, except for one. You know which one. Fuck that brand. But I think when it comes to snowboarding, the idea is to get you out there, get you enjoying it, and get you having the most optimal performance. Each one of these performs at a different level, and they have their pros and cons, except for one of them. I cannot stress that enough. You just need to find what works for you. Like what we're doing over here? Want to support us further? Swing on over to Angry Snowboarder VIP and become a member. Sure, I could tell you more here, but I got a video over there that explains it so much better. All right, so we went through everything from Step-On to Supermatic, including FASE, Flow, and even Clew. Hopefully you're more informed, but you know, If you need more information, we do have reviews on all these products. You should go watch those. You should do it now, actually. Watch more videos. It feeds the algorithm.